Welcome back to Conversations on Deck, and today is Two for Tuesday, folks. We're looking at this 1970 Topps rookie stars, Astros, Keith Lampard, and Scipio Spinks. I love these cards. It gives me an opportunity to do a Two for Tuesday because I got two people there. Got to do some research. Always got to find some quotes, digging through newspaper articles, and boy, it's just fun learning about some of these guys, and some of these guys end up being stars, but I'd say so many of them did not. So it's hard to do a little bit of research. So let's start out with Keith Lampard. Okay, born December 20th, 1945. I'm a history guy, so I look at 45, end of World War II. He was actually born in Warrington, Cheshire, England, then moved over to the U.S. His folks settled in Portland, Oregon, and eventually, when he passed away in Oregon. So kind of Oregon was his home, his hub. And let's look at 1970, what that looked like. Well, 1970, that's the year I was born, so I was super, super fresh. And he started out the season with Oklahoma City AAA. He appeared in 4 games. He had 3 runs, 1 hit, 1 RBI, and a .017 batting average. And then got called up. He was 24 years old at that time, and played in the bigs for the Astros. He had a .2 WAR. He appeared in 53 games, 8 runs, 17 hits. He had 2 doubles, 5 RBIs. 1 hit by pitch. I love that stat, the hit by pitch. I don't think people love getting hit by pitches. I remember when my son was in Little League, he was like a magnet. He was a batted left through right, but boy, he was a magnet for hit by pitches. And Keith mainly played in left field that year. Here's a couple fun facts about Keith. In first grade, he started being called Keith. Isn't that interesting? His first name is Christopher, but as teachers often do, when you have multiple kids with the same name, you look for a nickname, middle name, or it might be like in my case, it was Chris G and Chris Q. We were childhood friends. We're still friends, and we still, when we text back in our group chats, it's CQ and CG. In high school, Keith used to just hit incredible bombs over the fence. It broke windows, so they had to raise that fence so they didn't have to keep replacing the neighbors' windows, and it was called Lampard's fence after that. And another fun fact, Keith was in the 1958 Little League World Series, so that's kind of fun too. So here's a quote. We'll finish up talking about Keith, then we'll get over to Scipio. Here's what Keith said in 1971. Quote, "The first part of last season, I felt like I was sitting around taking their money. But when I realized that's what I'd be doing the rest of the season, I started to take the pinch hitting more seriously." End quote. I think that's a reality for so many of these athletes because, they come out of high school or they go into college and they're these major stars, and then they get into the major leagues and they find out, man, I'm not the only fish in the sea. I'm actually like a small fish, and you got all these big fish around, and there's a lot of downtime. So, I think these players, when they're sitting on the bench, they got to make a choice. They could, think, oh, woe is me, or they can get to work. Make the manager have to make some hard decisions as you improve, as you get those hits in those pinch hitting situations. And that's what Keith decided to do. So I love that. I think that's a great quality in a person. Okay, now we're going to switch gears. We're going to go to Scipio Spinks. What a great name. I mean, that's definitely, as a teacher or principal, that's a name you're going to remember. People are also going to remember him because he had a great fastball. He had a great personality. Everything I read, great sense of humor. He made connections wherever he went. He was born July 12th, 1947 in Chicago, Illinois. So let's look at Scipio in 1970. Okay, he was also AAA, Oklahoma City. He went 9-12. He had a really good season there. He had a 3.30 ERA. He appeared in 23 games. He had 10 complete games, which is awesome. 158 innings pitched, 58 earned runs, 77 walks, 153 Ks. That's where that fastball came in, folks. And also, when you're young and you got an incredible fastball, you got 17 wild pitches. So that was a great start to the 1970 season. And then, Scipio gets called up, and he plays in 5 games, 13.2 innings, 67 batters faced. He had a whopping 9.88 ERA. Not so good. 9 walks, 6 Ks, 15 earned runs, 1 wild pitch. So that was not a good year for Scipio. And then with his career, he kind of ended up having some injuries and things like that. And, I had mentioned a little bit earlier that, he had a great sense of humor. Here's what he said about his stint when he was with the Cardinals later on in his career. Quote, "Big name stars are the easiest to kid. Brock, Gibson, Joe Torre, people of that caliber, take it. They dish it back too. It keeps everybody smiling." And you know what? I think that's great. That says a lot about his personality. And it says a lot that these veterans recognized in Scipio that he was the real deal. He was a good kid. He worked hard, and he had a great sense of humor. That's cool. So a couple of fun facts about Scipio. Well, obviously his first name, if you paid attention in history class, or if you are like a history guy like me, the first thing you think is Scipio Africanus. Yeah, that's right. That's where he got his name from, because in his family, every firstborn son was named Scipio, after Scipio Africanus Major, who was a Roman general, and he defeated the great Hannibal Barca of Carthage at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. And Carthage, that's located in northern Africa. You probably remember hearing about Hannibal's name. Okay, he was the guy who, in the Punic Wars, traveled with elephants all the way across North Africa, up Spain, through the French Alps, down into Italy to attack the Romans. Totally surprised them. But when he went back to Carthage, that's where Scipio Africanus comes in and gets the fame. So you were thinking baseball cards, you got a little history there. Now with names, it's kind of interesting in my family. My dad, his first name was Joseph. He's in heaven now. And he had 2 older brothers and a younger brother. And on their birth certificates, their first name was Joseph. They went by their middle name. So like my dad always went by Eddie. And then something else that was kind of interesting, he was born and raised in Massachusetts. He went by Eddie. He and my mom got married, started the family in New York, and everybody called him Joe up there. Kind of interesting. And my dad's got 2 middle names. I got 2 middle names too. So I know I've done a lot of talking here. Let's finish us off with a little bit of Scipio wisdom. And here's what he said. Quote, "From the first day I signed, I knew baseball was my life. Even as a kid, I wanted it." End quote. I love that. Childhood dreams. I love, songs that talk about dreams. I think Van Halen has a song about dreams. Check it out. Anyways, the wonder, the joy that kids have of casting that dream, casting a vision. You know what? When kids say things like that, let's encourage them. Let's help them nurture that. And I would say the same thing as people my age, and I'm not sure how old you are, but if you got a dream, go for it. That's how my Instagram channel started. That's how this started on YouTube just a couple of days ago, because it was just something I wanted to do, and my family said, go for it. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. That was 2 for Tuesday. Have a great day, folks.